I've lived in Wilmington for 6 years, and here are my honest thoughts. Most people who move to Wilmington spend their first month feeling like they're on a vacation that never ended. The beach is 15 minutes away, it's warm, the food is good, and you keep asking yourself, why didn't I do this sooner? Then about 6 months in, the shine wears off. And you start to notice this place runs on a very different rhythm than what the brochures may suggest. Hi, I'm Kimberly Crouch with eXp Realty. I relocated here myself, and I picked this coast on purpose. After I'd done my homework, flood zones, insurance costs, traffic patterns, I'm going to tell you what a normal Tuesday really feels like here. What the summers are like when 50,000 or so people show up on an island with about 2,500 year-round residents. What surprised me most once the novelty wore off, the good and the bad. And the one thing about living here that I genuinely did not see coming, daily life reality, what a normal week actually looks like. I go to the same grocery stores I'd shop at anywhere. I work from my office and meet clients. I run on the beach, I play pickleball, walk my dog, go to hot yoga, same as I do all year. The pace here is different from big city life, but don't mistake that for slow. My weeks are full and active. What changes isn't how much you can do, it's that the traffic, the pressure, the constant grind of a major metro isn't sitting on top of all of it. You set your own pace here. Mine happens to be a fast one. If you want a full, active life without a big city squeezing you, that's exactly what this place lets you build. Now traffic. This is where I want to be direct with you because it's real, and it's the thing that surprises a lot of people when they move here. Traffic in Wilmington is bad at the times. Traffic is bad everywhere. Bad is relative and subjective. Morning drop-off, the lunch rush, school bus time in the afternoon, and anything after 3 p.m. when school lets out and people start heading home from work. That's true in January, and it's also true in July. Where it actually changes at different times of year is specific corridors on specific days. The Eastwood Road and Military Cutoff intersection is the clearest example. It's one of the main routes to Wrightsville Beach, and the NCDOT project manager overseeing that corridor put it plainly. There are about 75,000 vehicles that go through there today, and based on projected volume, there is going to be about 100,000 in the 2040 design year. In summer, especially on Fridays and on Saturday mornings, that intersection can turn a 15-minute drive to Wrightsville Beach into 45 or so. Now, there's a planned overpass at that intersection with construction currently scheduled to begin in late 2027 and expected to run about 4 years. So relief is coming, according to NCDOT, eventually. Until then, if you're going to live near that corridor or you plan on using it to get to the beach, that's a real factor to build into your decision. This is actually part of why I chose the Mayfair area myself. I'm in an X-flood zone, and I can walk or bike to the beach on the Cross City Trail. I'm on the Eastwood Corridor plenty. It's part of my daily routine usually, but I bought where I did for the flood zone and the beach access. A mile or two of difference in where you buy in this market can completely change what your week actually feels like. Healthcare access is good here too. Novant Health has been expanding its Wilmington presence for years. The restaurant scene along the Lumina corridor and in Mayfair has gotten noticeably better every year. And the airport, ILM, isn't huge, but it connects well to the major hubs. On my last 2 flights, it was 30 minutes from my front door to being through security and at my gate. The seasonal truth summer crowds and hurricane season really mean for residents. So Wrightsville Beach and all the local beaches is where the seasonal shift actually happens, not the city as a whole. It's a small island, Wrightsville Beach is, about 4 miles long and a 1/4 mile wide. And on a peak summer weekend, the population on Wrightsville Beach can surge to somewhere between 45,000 and 50,000 people, according to local tourism data. On a Wednesday in January, it's a fraction of that. But here's the thing about Wrightsville Beach compared to some place like Outer Banks or Topsail Island. Those places run on weekly turnover, Saturday to Saturday, a fresh wave of renters every week all summer. Wrightsville Beach isn't built that way. Most of the traffic is second homeowners and weekend visitors, not week-long renters. So the crowds are real, especially Friday through Sunday, but it's not the same nonstop weekly churn you'd see on a barrier island built around weekly rentals. Parking lots fill up early on summer weekends here. Restaurants run longer wait times and Causeway Drive backs up on the way in and out. Locals learn the rhythm. You figure out which times to go, which spots the visitors may not know about, and you stop fighting the calendar. Then September hits, and it's like someone turned the volume down. The crowds thin out almost overnight. The beach comes back to you, and locals genuinely look forward to it every year. So if a big part of why you want to move here is easy, quiet beach access, know that summer weekends at Wrightsville Beach come with real crowds. If you're flexible, or you're mostly drawn to the lifestyle that exists the other 9 months of the year, the tourist season becomes something you navigate, not something that runs your life. Now, hurricane season. This is real too, and I want to give you the actual picture instead of the version you may see on the news. One thing worth understanding about this area, a lot of our flooding doesn't look like the sudden dramatic storm surge scene you picture from the coverage. Some of the worst of it comes slower. Heavy rainfall that sits and rivers that crest days after the storm has moved on. Florence in 2018 was exactly that, and it impacted over 8,000 properties in Wilmington based on First Street flood models. That doesn't make it harmless at all, and it doesn't mean surge never happens. It means you need to understand the specific risk at a specific address. For you as a buyer, that means flood zone classification is not optional information. It's one of the first things I go through with every client. First Street data puts around 17.2% of Wilmington properties, that's roughly 7,410 homes, at some level of flood risk today. And over a 30-year mortgage, a so-called 1 in 100-year flood event carries a 26% chance of happening at least once. An X flood zone, which is what I specifically looked for with my home, means the lender doesn't require flood insurance. It's still optional and you can get it, and I can walk you through whether or not that makes sense for you. An AE or VE zone means the lender requires it if you're financing, and those premiums may add up. In most of the areas I work in, people live happily for decades without a flood event. But I'd be doing you a disservice if we didn't talk about it and I didn't tell you to pull the flood map for any specific address before you make an offer. Start with flood.nc.gov and FEMA's Flood Map Service Center. And just a little disclaimer, all information in this video is deemed reliable, but not guaranteed. Buyers should independently verify all data, including flood zone classification and insurance costs. This content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, or investment advice. I am not a licensed insurance agent, so please consult one for property-specific coverage and premium information. Okay, here is what surprised me most on the positive side. The positive surprises here weren't really about the beach. I expected the beach to be awesome, which it is. What actually surprised me is how much genuine community actually exists inside a city of this size. Because Wilmington has grown a lot, but it hasn't lost that feeling of distinct little pockets where people know each other. Mayfair may feel different from Landfall, which may feel different from Ogden, which may feel different from Leland, which feels different from Porter's Neck. Each one has its own rhythm, its own regulars at the coffee shop. I run into people I know almost everywhere I go, and I absolutely love that. The other surprise sounds simple, but it's real. How warm and clear the ocean actually gets here in the summer, and how long that warmth sticks around into the fall. The water gets into the low 80s in the summer. Clear, blue-green, genuinely inviting, and you can stay in comfortably well past Labor Day. North Carolina's income tax is a flat 3.99% in 2026, and it's legislated to keep dropping. For buyers coming from New Jersey or New York specifically, that difference shows up as real money savings to factor in. More than one client has told me that looking at the actual numbers was a major deciding factor for them moving here. None of this means Wilmington is cheap. It means the combination of community, growth, lifestyle, and tax structure adds up to something that's hard to find all in one place. Now, what surprised me most on the negative side? The negative surprises didn't show up in my first year here. They showed up as the city kept growing around me. The first one is growing pains. Infrastructure hasn't kept pace with how fast people are moving here. As I mentioned, the Eastwood and Military Cutoff Corridor a minute ago, and that intersection is a good example of the bigger pattern. NCDOT is already projecting that one spot to go from 75,000 vehicles a day to 100,000 by around 2040, and that's a single intersection. Road projects, school capacity, and utility infrastructure are all playing catch up with population growth, and that catch up takes years, not months. The second one is what's happened to prices within about 5 miles of Wrightsville Beach. Buying close to the water here has gotten noticeably more competitive over the past several years, and homes in that radius pull a real premium over areas just 10 or 15 minutes further inland or north. If proximity to the beach is a must must-have for you, budget for that premium going in. And the third one surprised me the most because the numbers used to work here, and the deals that actually pencil out now are getting harder and harder to find. Finding an investment property that cash flows the traditional way, where rent covers the mortgage and expenses with room left over and a return that makes sense to investors, is genuinely hard to find now. Purchase prices have moved up faster than rents, so a lot of properties that would have penciled out as rentals 10 years ago don't work the same way today. So if you're searching here specifically to buy an investment property, I'd rather tell you that up front than have you hunting for a needle in a haystack for years. None of these are reasons to stay away. They're reasons to plan with real numbers instead of assumptions. We just talked about how competitive it's gotten to buy near Wrightsville Beach and why the traditional investment math may not work here the way it used to. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone, and you don't know which pockets of Wilmington still fit your actual budget and your lifestyle desires, it's easy to spend months touring homes you can't really afford. And sometimes you can afford the purchase, just not the updates and deferred maintenance. Or you overpay by tens of thousands chasing one specific zip code or neighborhood that isn't even what you really need. So let me save you that. Take my free 3-minute neighborhood match quiz linked below, and I'll show you which areas actually fit your budget and the lifestyle you're after. The results come straight to your email inbox. Hidden costs and trade-offs newcomers don't expect. So once you know which area actually fits your budget, there's another layer of costs that almost nobody budgets for until they're living here. And it ties directly into which community you buy in. HOA fees at coastal Wilmington communities are not a footnote. In some cases, they're a significant monthly expense that changes the real cost of ownership in a major way. Here's how the range actually is. So Beau Rivage runs an HOA fee of around $625 a year. Landfall, one of the most established gated communities in Wilmington, carries HOA dues of a minimum of $4,200 a year, and that's before any club membership. Figure 8 Island comes in at a minimum of $5,100 a year or thereabouts, and many higher than that. So those fees cover real things: gated access, beach access in some circumstances, amenities, and maintenance, but they need to be in your budget before you fall in love with the listing. The thing that genuinely catches people off guard is special assessments. North Carolina does not require HOAs to conduct a reserve study. So that means some associations aren't setting aside adequate reserves for future expenses. After the coastal insurance rate hikes that took effect in June 2025, a lot of HOA master policies got significantly more expensive, almost overnight. If the board wasn't prepared for that, the shortfall goes straight to the owners. Special assessments and coastal mid-size associations after an insurance shortfall can run anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 per unit, a bill that shows up after closing with no warning in the listing. Before you buy in any HOA community, you want to see the reserve study if one exists, the last 2 years if you can get them of meeting minutes, and the current budget and financials so you can look at the reserve balance. That's standard due diligence for any coastal buyer. Property taxes also vary more than people expect, depending on exactly where you land, although often still lower for many relocating buyers here based on where they're coming from. But on a $600,000 home, you're looking at roughly $3,800 a year in the city of Wilmington, about $3,000 in Curry Beach, and just under $2,900 in Carolina Beach. And those rates move. The city of Wilmington just raised its rate this summer, and both Curry Beach and Carolina Beach adjusted theirs for this budget year too. Revaluation cycles can shift your number again down the road, so the figure you see today may not be the figure you pay in a few years. Wrightsville Beach also has a utility setup that's different from what most mainland buyers are used to. As of late 2025, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority handles the water and sewer, but the town still bills trash and stormwater separately. It's not complicated once you're set up, but it surprises buyers coming from places where those costs are bundled into one bill or covered by property taxes. Overall, the cost of living in Wilmington runs slightly above the national average, with housing and insurance driving most of that gap. I tell you all of this not to discourage you, but because buyers who understand the full picture choose well. Buyers who only see the median home price end up recalculating things they should have run before they made an offer. Buyers should independently verify all HOA fees, reserve fund status, and property tax rates directly with the relevant county, municipality, and HOA prior to purchase. All information deemed reliable but not guaranteed. Now, this is why I still choose Wilmington after all of it. So after everything I just told you, you might be wondering why I'd make the same move again. Here's my honest answer. Wilmington has changed, and it's not going back to what it was 10 years ago. People are moving here from the Northeast, from the West Coast, from the Midwest, and the Southwest. The town town is growing, traffic is increasing, and road projects like the Eastwood Overpass are going to keep coming for the next decade, most likely. That's the reality now, as I see it. So you can look at that two ways. You can miss the version of Wilmington that existed before all this growth, or you can get excited about what it's becoming. I'm in that second camp. It's genuinely rare to get this level of city amenities this close to the ocean in a metro this size and still have it feel like a small coastal town in some areas and still be relatively affordable compared to a lot of the rest of the country, especially on coasts. None of the things I described earlier are hidden problems that sneak up on you. They're known realities you can plan around. And the people who struggle here are the ones who showed up without a full picture. The ones who thrive made a clear-eyed decision and chose accordingly. And when you look at the numbers, that decision keeps holding up. The median sale price in Wilmington hit about $475,000 in June 2026, up 5.7% over the year before, which was $449,500, according to the MLS data from Cape Fear Realtors. Sales dipped just slightly from 380 a year ago to 368 this June, and the average sale to list price ratio is 96.6%. Demand is real. The market isn't in free fall. It's steady with only about 2.5 months of supply, which still leaves room for buyers who know what they're looking for. Over the past 5 years, Wilmington home values have appreciated about 30%, a lot of it driven by migration demand. And the longer-term trajectory supports continued growth. New Hanover County's Destination 2050 Comprehensive Plan projects 48% population growth between 2020 and 2050. That's not a bubble claim. It's a planning document built on demographic data, and it tells you something about where this market is heading. And I'll say this honestly, too. The growth rate has moderated from its peak. The Census Bureau found that 310 of the 387 U.S. metro areas grew more slowly between 2024 and 2025 than the year before, and Wilmington was no exception. Our peak rate of 3.7% back in 2021 to 2022 has eased to about 2.6%. But here's the context that matters. That 2.6% still ranks number 7 in the entire country. This isn't runaway growth about to tip over. It's steady, sustained demand from people making real decisions with real money. But here's the part the numbers don't fully capture. Every morning, I get to run the Wrightsville Beach loop out to the water on the beach, or bike the Cross-City Trail to the beach, or sit outside at a restaurant on the water in October without a coat. I'm reminded why I chose this. Those aren't small things. And after years of living somewhere that demanded everything from me, this is a place that actually gives something back to me that I just love. The buyers I work with who adjust best are the ones who came here for a specific kind of life. That's what keeps long-term residents from leaving. It's that the quality of life you're paying for actually shows up in your day-to-day. Everything I've covered in this video, the flood zones, the insurance costs, the HOA structures, the traffic corridors, the tax picture, the positives and negatives of this growing coastal area. That's the framework I walk every single relocation buyer through when they're deciding if this area is right for them. The buyers who skip that conversation and go off listing prices alone are the ones who may get caught off guard, because the purchase price isn't what stretches a budget here. It's insurance, HOA dues, maintenance and updates, and property taxes stacking up together month after month. That catches people. If you're seriously thinking about making a move to coastal North Carolina and you want to talk through your specific situation, call or text me at 910-218-8187 or use the buyer consultation link below this video to book a call. I'm Kimberly Crouch with eXp Realty, your coastal relocation specialist, offering you authentic coastal luxury at every price point.